this panel, we're going to be talking about the role of privacy. My name is Red Eyed Bear, and I'll be the MC for this. And before we get this started, I want to give everyone a chance to introduce themselves and the projects that they represent.
I'm Tor, CEO of Stashh, equally secured by Secret Network.
Hey, I'm Ross. I'm product lead at Cheqd. We're a decentralized identity or self-sovereign identity layer 1 app chain built on Cosmos.
I'm Pete from Obi. We're also on Secret. We let users do anything they want in 2 clicks.
Hi, I'm Alex. I'm CEO of Secret Labs. We're building the Secret Network, securing those great projects. Thank you.
I'm Lisa Loud, and I lead the Secret Network Foundation, work with Alex. We're also secured by Secret.
I appreciate everyone introducing themselves. To start this panel off, I think we should establish some context for the discussion on the role of privacy. So to each of you here, what is privacy and why is it valuable?
Oh, mic. But I have to start. Oh, can you hear me? Yeah, I think. Can you hear me? Right, we're good. Yeah, for me, I think I'm probably quite different to a number of people on the panel here. Growing up, or in the last 10 years in my 20s, privacy wasn't something that would have been seen as a high priority for me. It wasn't until a couple of years ago when my friends was talking about privacy, and I was like, I don't really care that much. And then he was like, okay, cool, can I have your phone? I want to read your WhatsApp messages. And I was like, I don't know about that, but I don't know why I don't know about that. And so I think for me, privacy is about people having just choice and the ability to choose when they make their decisions. I think a lot of the time when we talk about privacy, we talk about all the negatives of losing your privacy. But there's also positives about having privacy in terms of sometimes you're shopping for an engagement ring. You don't want someone to know that you're about to propose to them, or you're organising a 60th birthday party for your parents. You don't want them to find out. So I think privacy to me is just all the day-to-day things that we do that matter to give us the kind of the autonomy as humans.
I think that's a phenomenal answer. When I talk about privacy on stage and off, I'm always talking about pillars like consent and choice and how it enables both individuality but also safe identity formation in a group setting. The ability to feel like you can safely explore identity is enabled by privacy. Being able to protect, when you're able to disclose something to exactly the people that you want it disclosed to, and you can choose exactly what it is that's disclosed. That's power. So lately, instead of just leaving it at consent and choice, I really focus on empowerment. And if people understand how deeply linked privacy was with power, and how powerful this broader decentralization movement is, I think they would see that it's going to be impossible for the decentralization movement to thrive without privacy protections.
Privacy is a human right. It's the freedom to be yourself, to express yourself without everyone needing to know who you. It's the power to share that with. It's a very intimate thing, privacy, and it's the ability to share with others when you'd like parts of your identity, who you are in your decision making, and it has to be protected at all costs.
So, continuing what Carter just said, privacy is a basic human right, but it's also a responsibility, right? So people have the right for privacy, but they also need to do some work to get this privacy. So I started my crypto journey with a project called Beam, which is a layer 1 privacy coin back in 2017-18. And we were all talking about privacy being the basic human rights, but as we see now, those privacy coins didn't get to where we hoped they would. And that's because most of the people in general, Facebook, Instagram, and also in crypto, they don't take the responsibility of, being private. And one of the reasons they don't take responsibility is friction, right? So being on Monero, for instance, and not on Ethereum, requires some actions and involves friction. And most of the people don't take the responsibility to go over this friction to get to privacy. So making privacy frictionless is the way to go, because if it does have friction, people are just not responsible enough. A lot of people are not responsible enough to make this extra step and protect their rights and their privacy. So that's my answer.
It's hard to go last. Everything said so far was true. So privacy, at least in part, is the ability to have future choices and future chances, especially in a world where AI and data is taking over so hard. And mistakes you made in your youth, or just little things, like now drones can start to tell who you're attracted to by how your pupils dilate. You know, and these are things you maybe haven't decided to do, you don't even have control of. But then that feeds into the world of AI, and it might determine down the road whether you get a job or not, or whether you have an opportunity, because statistically you shouldn't be allowed to because of these factors that we know from your past. So to me, it's like privacy now is preserving our choices and chances as humans to be who we are in that future world that's coming quickly, where we are all subject to AI and big data.
So if one were to observe the state of adoption for privacy-preserving solutions, both in Web 2 and Web 3, it's not difficult to notice the lagging adoption and lack of focus from the majority of the population. And it seems like privacy becomes a priority for individuals after they've experienced some sort of value or data extraction. How do you think builders of privacy-preserving applications or chains or infrastructure can better approach prospective users and convey the value of privacy before they have value extracted or data extracted?
Did you want to go first, Lisa?
I really believe that the responsibility for privacy lies on the builders, not on individuals. As Alex said, it has to be frictionless, and so the builders are the ones who need to create those experiences that deliver privacy in a way that is really easy to accomplish. Otherwise, I mean, it's too difficult for people to, and like you said, they don't care about privacy until they've had some event that takes it away from them. But that's not really true in another way if you look at it, because we take privacy for granted in our Web 2 lives. I would never go up to a stranger and say, hey, show me your bank account. I want to see what you spent. And if you share your wallet with someone, if you pay someone with your wallet, you are doing just that. So I think that we care about privacy, we just don't understand how much we're giving up when we go to blockchain.
I'm going to try something here. Okay. I want to talk about Web 0, which is like the unnetworked world, just like the physical world. This is always the analogy that I feel like helps drive it home for people. There's things about the physical world where privacy is preserved just by the fact that you can't walk through walls, or by the fact that you can't see through walls. And the reason that humans moved, into dwellings and things like that was to protect them from the elements, or to protect them from predators. Like, you can go back thousands of years. The reason we always took it for granted is because the physical world actually protected us, and we built tools to allow us to take advantage of that physical world, the opportunities it gave us to even improve those protections. But something about the internet, has made those walls dissolve. So now we can see through walls, we can walk through walls, and with blockchains, despite all the friction that exists, we're making everything even more transparent, even more hyper-fluid, and so the dangers are even more real. I don't think people really understand the extent to which privacy is already protected, or lost for that matter, in the Web 2 world, but if we want them to understand the value of privacy or the steps that we've taken in human history to protect it, I think we have to go back even before the networked age and talk about physical protections, talk about why safety is important from a physical perspective, talk about the emotions of how it feels to have your physical safety threatened, and equate that with now this more intangible world, but make it feel as real to the user, because as Pete's saying, the scary future may be a very real future, it's just less tangible. That doesn't make it any less important to care about building those protections now, and builders, just like home builders, taking responsibility for ensuring that it's secure.
Brilliant, I love that answer. I'm gonna use that if I'm ever on a privacy panel again. I think for me it goes back to what Lisa said. It's very much around making the user experience better, whatever the product that you're building is. And so for me it comes down to like convenience and user experience, and we can't expect to drive people into this industry if we're not making products that are better than existing things. For me, for example, I think one example which is quite used commonly is around like password management. I think for years and years, I know my mum has been like this, Excel spreadsheets, Google Notes, like documents, Word documents, and I've like found things, I've been like, how the hell are you keeping your stuff there? And then something like 1Password comes along, or LastPass, which I don't know, trying to read the room, I don't know if people like or don't like that, but it's a convenient product, and it means that you have kind of an experience that goes between your mobile and your phone, and it makes it better, and so I think it's all just about convenience and user experience.
Yeah, I agree that for consumers to switch over to privacy-enabled products, they just need to be better or cooler, or enable some things that are not available in others. So for blockchain, for example, all kinds of games that are only possible, games of cards or casino games that are only available with some level of privacy, that would bring people. Or just products that are better, more profitable, better dexes, better yields, with privacy, that would bring consumers. But there is also the institutional players. And there, the privacy is kind of a must, right? Because whereas as a person, I maybe don't care really that much that everybody sees my trades on Ethereum, but as an institutional player, I really do care. I don't want my competitors to see my positions or my trading strategies. So as privacy-oriented chain or privacy-oriented projects, we need to find those specific cases where privacy just enables things that are impossible without it. And I'll give you one more example. I just talked to a big layer one earlier this week. And the guy told me a story of a vote that they had, a governance vote to elect a board for the project. And it was all in the open. And that lasted for 2 weeks, and that led to so much rift and argument because people suddenly discovered that their friends, or people who thought were their friends, voted for somebody else. And when he told me, they said, well, why don't we do this voting on a confidential chain, and we're now working, I hope hopefully this will happen. So this is exactly a case where lack of privacy leads to very bad outcomes and that are apparent and immediate. So I think we need to find those specific places and attack those use cases where privacy enables things that are not possible without it, and that will bring both institutional players and later on the retail players. That's my take.
Yeah, I would love to kind of, sorry, if you got, I was going to say, I would love to dig into some of the examples you were mentioning there, Alex. Obviously, as contributors to privacy-preserving protocols and chains, we think about these things all the time, like solutions or systems that don't work at all with privacy, or they won't work into perpetuity with privacy. I'm curious if you guys have any great examples that really hit home to individuals of applications or use cases for tools that do not work without privacy.
Well, go back to the internet, think about the internet, right? We had the read version, everyone's talking read-write now. We had the read version of the internet. Privacy was a little less important, perhaps, unless you were going for the big two early uses of the internet, pornography and gambling, which just is how it is, right? But privacy was, you're accessing Encyclopedia Britannica. Maybe your average user doesn't understand why that needs to be encrypted. Encrypted emails come out, okay, that's nice. But then as we developed what the internet really, truly could be, all of the things you use today on the internet, they couldn't work without encryption and some encrypted technology. You're using cloud storage, that doesn't work without encryption. You're logging in all around, using OAuth logins and authentication. You're using, you're setting who can see your posts on social media so that stalker doesn't, follow you. These are things that, like use cases that I'm sure the early inventors of encryption, the early implementers of encryption on the internet, hadn't fully thought through, how important this is going to be to the internet. And I think that's true here, where privacy and blockchain, blockchain itself is enabled by encryption, right? But having private state in blockchain, and having the ability to have having encrypted computation, encrypted storage, encrypted operations, that's going to enable new use cases that we haven't even thought of yet. It's not just about money laundering. It's not just about sending money and not having people know. It's about all kinds of things. And you asked for specifics, so I'll try not to self-show too much here, but we use it, for example, right now. We couldn't do these things without Secret Network. We have all-chain smart accounts where a user comes in and creates an account, and they have accounts on all chains, even chains that don't exist yet. And smart accounts, account abstraction without, even if they haven't touched the chain yet, they could receive and have assets there. And that wouldn't be possible without encrypted state. And we use fast travel tunnels to get users whatever they want in a couple clicks. And they can sit back and it runs on its own without anybody running it because they pre-authorized it. And it can only ever get where the user wants, and that would not have been possible at all without encrypted state. We could not have built it. We would have had to have our own servers or something custodial. And that's just a couple of things we thought about because we needed encrypted state. As the encrypted state becomes more accessible, as things like SnakePath and other initiatives from Secret become more easier to use, more documented, right, easier to implement, I can only imagine what kind of use cases beyond private voting and all-chain accounts and private messaging and things people will come up with. It's going to unlock a whole new world of blockchain applications that aren't about, hiding things from the government. They're just uses that absolutely require non-custodial, decentralized access to private state and private computation.
Nice. So, not to show too much again, but no one said the word NFT yet, so I get to say the word NFT, right? So Stashh is very focused on adoption for encrypted NFTs, and the reason is that we think normal NFTs are pretty stupid. And we went through this entire last cycle with everybody, it became a meme, it was an SNL skit, basically because everybody was like, I just right-click saved your ape, and now I own it too, haha. And it was just so frustrating because really, here we go. Really what people were, gimme. This gets me worked up. Really what people were trying to do is secure digital ownership. But again, it didn't feel like real ownership because in the real world, if you've got a painting hanging on your wall in your house, nobody walks into your house, takes it off the wall, puts it in their car and says, it's mine too, and drives off. And in the blockchain space, it happened all the time. So you had the same art launching across 17 different blockchains and people telling other people that they were all equally valuable and equally secure and equally this. The future of digital ownership does require encryption and encrypted state so that the owner, and this is all very programmable, especially on a network like Secret, but in the future of digital ownership, we're going to take for granted that we were always able to control who could access this information, who could see our NFT, who could see that we owned it, who could see the metadata inside of it. And right now, the fact that all of that is so radically transparent makes these things seem really stupid to Web 0 people or Web 2 people who are like, well, that doesn't sound like ownership at all. They are correct. But in the future, with encrypted NFTs being the standard, encrypted contracts being the standard, it will feel like real ownership. They will understand, and these things will have value, not just to a niche audience, but a global one.
I wanted to add that, just playing off what Pete said, I had the incredible opportunity, or some of you might think misfortune, but I thought it was a great opportunity to meet one-on-one with Hester Pierce today. She is an SEC commissioner. And so I asked her, I told her what I'm doing and at Secret Network, and I asked her what she thought about privacy. And she said, if the government had its way, it would make all blockchain transparent, it would make all blockchain privacy illegal. But she doesn't believe that's the right solution because, our basic human rights for privacy, she recognizes. But she does say there's a lot of hostility within the SEC towards crypto in general, but also privacy. So my point is that I think there's people in the government who see that it's important for us to have privacy, and she also said some people suggest having a backdoor to the blockchain, so the government can always get the information out if there's a case against someone. But she said that's not the answer either, because the wrong government is looking into the wrong person, and they have unlimited power in that case. So I mean, these conversations are going on, but I will say that at the end I said, what can I do to help? And she said, give us ideas for how regulation should work in the SEC for crypto. And there will be an opportunity, there will be a moment when we will have someone's ear and we'll have the ability to enact some new policy. We just want to make sure it's the right policy, because bad policy is very hard to undo. So with that said, I'm actually looking for people with ideas on how better to structure the regulatory environment in the US. And I bet Carter has some ideas.
That was intense. I'm sure everyone was kind of, wow, Commissioner. So coming back to use cases, I think we can be very specific. So let's look at Cheqd. Why is Cheqd even relevant, right? There are multiple dexes there. But on every other dex, it can be just front run. And you cannot be front run on Cheqd. It's just as simple as that. And people realize that. And they start moving there. And also when you're on Cheqd, it's impossible to observe your positions and your trades. So that's a very simple value proposition. Front running speaks to retail probably, not everyone, but people understand that. And being confidential speaks to institutional players, right? Another case story, we're talking about NFTs. So we have PageDAO, I don't know if they're here, they're building on Secret now, and they're building a book publishing application where authors can sell their books on chain, right? Now, can you do that on Ethereum? Well, if the book is on chain, then anybody can read it without any need to buy. So if the content is encrypted, then only the owner can read it, and then they can resell it or gift it or whatever, but that's a very real use case enabling something that was impossible. We talked about voting, we talked about card games, and there will be more, but I think even now we have some very, very specific use cases that solve real problems. We just need to build them to be frictionless, and people will come.
I think coming to this question, I think if you start to look at what are the highest motivations for humans, whether you're looking at something like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, or you're looking at just day-to-day life. And I think I heard something this week, but there's getting paid, getting laid, and being able to have the right to find a home and have the right to have a home. And I think those things basically come to use cases around dating applications, around choosing the kind of person you put out when you want to apply for a job, and what you say and do when you're trying to, if you're seeking asylum or if you're trying to get refugee status. And I think all of those come down to the individual being able to choose what data they share. But in order to choose what data you share, you need to have the data in the first place. And I think the way the world works right now is issuers of data tend to just hold on to that data and rarely release it to the individual, partly because there's no incentive for them to do so, but partly because it's just more efficient to have centralized systems for them. So there needs to be systems in place for individuals to kind of take control of their data, hold their data, and I think I'm going to talk about a bit about what we're doing as well at Cheqd and with our product Reds. With this, we're kind of looking at ways of aggregating data and finding ways in which individuals can know what data exists about them. Because if, for example, you're going on a date, what tends to happen is someone's going to go out and they're going to find every single piece about you that they can in advance, which is really very sad for our generation, because it means you can't actually show a fresh state in an individual person when you arrive, because someone's gone through your pictures of you when you're 13 years old with a tin of cider on a bench in a park or something. I'm British. So in order to kind of do that, you need to have the data, you need to have it in one place, and I think what we're doing, bringing verifiable credentials, which are stored off-chain, and being able to have kind of a way of incentivize issuers to give away data, which is why we've built payment rails for verifiable credentials, so issuers can choose to monetize the verification of a credential.
guess the one thing I would add is the mental model I use is we all like lock our cars when we're in a parking lot. We implicitly don't trust those around us necessarily have our best intentions in mind, right? And like in these totally transparent blockchains, everyone is there. It's like the scale of the problem is so much worse than in the physical world, and we talk about like, oh, what use cases can only be accomplished with privacy. I think it's just going to keep compounding the examples of those, and so I think the pressure is building, and this problem and the value of privacy will have its breakthrough moment, because you cannot intertwine your everyday life with a panopticon of total transparency. It doesn't work. The risks are too great, and so that makes me incredibly optimistic every day to be working on this technology, because privacy's time is coming, and it's on the back of all the hard work of people up here and many other people that are not here.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about the value that privacy brings to people, the good that it does, but we haven't talked about some of the negatives that come with privacy, some of the dangers that come with privacy. And so, I'm curious from you guys' perspective, what are some of the dangers of privacy and how do we responsibly answer those risks? As we as builders and proponents of privacy need to be able to have healthy dialogues with our user bases and regulators, and a whole slew of different individuals that have a vested stake in whether we're able to operate in a private manner. So I'm curious, how do we go about having those conversations with people about the risks of privacy, and also explaining that while there are risks, we're not nefarious people, we're not bad people, we're trying to provide a good for people.
My approach to this is always by reminding people, this isn't an issue of transparency good or bad, privacy good or bad. It's always a spectrum. And when we're designing these systems, everything that we're talking about is programmability along that spectrum between transparency and privacy. And in any architecture, you're going to want to have things that are private under all circumstances or in some sort of user-centric model, or things that are transparent under all circumstances. And it comes back to what's better for the user, what is more secure for the system, what makes it more sustainable. So the downsides of privacy come when things in the system have absolute privacy or no auditability that should be auditable, and that is bad. Because it's bad for sustainability, it's bad for keeping out bad actors, it's bad for identifying the source of a problem. If there's a hack in a protocol and you can't decrypt what actually happened to identify the issue, that's bad. That's not protecting users. But similarly, if something in the system is completely transparent that needs to be private, which ends up being the majority of the system, but not all, equally bad and for the same reason. So at least when we have the conversation, I would always want to start by framing it in that regard. Nothing about privacy inherently makes it bad. Nothing about transparency inherently makes it bad. But we have to have a common ethos and a common goal. In this case, it being user security, user empowerment. That helps get everybody on the same page about where in the system auditability is demanded if we're also going to have encryption and privacy.
I'll jump in. I think we should be careful and build products that have legitimate uses. Okay, meaning it's great to build a DEX where people can trade in confidentiality, but it's probably not the best idea we've seen to build a mixer that is actually purposefully built in a way for people to launder money and ends up allegedly being used by criminal regimes and terrorists to fund themselves, right? So, and I agree that auditability is important, but I think the intent is also what's important, and I think that's what also, well, at least I hope the regulators, when they look around the privacy projects, I think they should also be looking at the main purpose. Okay, so maybe somebody tries to launder something on secret network, but it has never been the purpose or the goal or a stated use case, right? We've never said, hey, come over and hide your funds from wherever. And I think that's very important that we as builders create products that have significant or that that the main use of them is something legitimate, some legitimate privacy that makes sense, rather than some bad intentions or letting nefarious actors do their thing, because that's not where we're here to do, right? We're here to build legitimate services that make people's lives better, and not to let criminals do their things and hurt us in the end.
I'm going to take slight counter argument and say the very things that protect you are the things that they call dangerous. Don't give them an inch.
Yeah, yeah, I'll just add, I think with privacy, I think with making adoption matter, I think it comes down to context, location, suspense, number 3. Context, location, and then business models, because I think for any of us to be successful, we have to build startups that actually work, and for a startup to work, they have to, in some way, generally be revenue generating, as much as that's a little bit not talked much about in Web3, but they have to be revenue generating. To be revenue generating, you tend to need to have, like, the classic lean startup mindset, where you need to first start with, okay, who's your addressable market, and let's do TAM, SOM, and work out, okay, let's find our niche, let's focus on that. What do they need? What country are they in? What's the context in which we're working with them in? Because I think you then have to kind of build from there. So yes, in some locations, terrorist organizations and things like that may be more of a problem. And so if you're going to start with that as your kind of beachhead market, and you're going to focus all in on that, then yes, focus on those things. But if you're going to be in a location where that's not as important, and you see people are willing to pay like £5 a month or $5 a month or something, then focus on something that's going to matter to them. But yeah, I just think generally we just need to make sure we're focusing on an actual outcome and building the business models that actually make people want to engage with it.
I liked how Carter said, don't give them an inch. And, well, they've taken a lot of inches. And I mean, it used to be, it's like how inflation has affected limits. What was it, $10,000 has to be reported to the IRS or something from a bank, right? Well, that's less and less. Eventually that'll be the price of a grocery trip, and unless someone changes that rule. A lot of things work that way. It used to be a reasonable regulation. It's no longer reasonable because now it's a hassle. We're seeing how securities regulations are not really reasonable to follow for crypto traders, an extreme hassle. But I really like how secrets viewing keys. And that idea not just of total privacy, but optional transparency, is kind of pushing back and saying, okay, government, other organizations, you can still do your role, because the government is free to come to an individual and order them to share a viewing key. It's up to that individual whether to comply or not. And a corporation is free to go to an employee and say, what were you doing? Share your viewing key. We need to know this activity. So there is that optional transparency, but the government currently has reached a threshold where it can look at whatever it wants, whenever it wants, whether it's legal or not. It wants absolute surveillance of everything under any circumstance, which is absolutely against the laws of the country. And by giving it optional transparency, it now pushes it back to a position
where it should be.
Yeah, to where it should be. To where with warrant, probable cause, probable whatever, or by request, whatever, the government can ask for that information and proceed accordingly, rather than just mass surveillance of everyone and absolutely everything they do.
Yeah.
All right, this will be the last question, and we'll wrap this panel up. Obviously, we're all Cosmos-based projects. I'm curious, how close do you think we are to having privacy as a core product offering in the Cosmos?
I heard today that Secret is also not just a Cosmos product. I heard somebody say. But so the question is, how close is it to like a default or an offering in the Cosmos?
Where people start thinking about it as often as they think about the non-privacy, or they recognize and are weighing the value of privacy alongside the non-private version at the onset.
Oh god. Who's gonna go there?
I'm gonna go first. Once you make it frictionless.
So like I read the question before, so like it was like whether Cosmos is associated with privacy as well, right? So I think not. I think Cosmos is just a great way to build whatever you want to build. And that was, I think, the reason that Cheqd was built in Cosmos, because it was modular from the get-go. You get the consensus, and the finality and all that. You get it kind of for free, and you just do the privacy thing. So hopefully more projects will come to build on Cosmos. But I don't think Cosmos in general will become like a privacy thing. Because it's great for building whatever you want to build. So yeah, we do plan to export our privacy, our confidential computing to Cosmos and to EVM and to other ecosystems, hoping to become this confidential computing hub for everyone. Needs to be frictionless as well. But again, to the question, I think Cosmos is kind of not related to privacy, or it's like a different, sort of talking about it's a different layer of infrastructure.
Yeah, I guess the main thing I was thinking about in relation to privacy being a core offering is, thinking about what OB Money is doing, being able to provide this privacy for wallets, regardless of what chain you're on. You still get that native privacy, and maybe it's related to how Cheqd is exporting privacy or integrates with other projects that provides that level of privacy to projects that never really thought about the need for it to begin with. So,
since you referred to it, we did encrypted state, or we came onto Cheqd because we needed it. We absolutely couldn't do the UX, the 2 clicks to whatever you want thing that we wanted to do without it. But now that we're here, right, we've thought about things like, okay, our smart accounts can do inheritance. Do you really want the world to know? Hell, do you even want your inheritors to know what your plans and conditions are, Like a 30% to you, 25% to you. How about if my account is inactive for 6 months? Do you really want anyone to know that, right? So that kind of information, yeah, you should absolutely be able to keep it private. So the rules by which your account acts, like the spend limits that you're issuing to other addresses, your hot wallets, like what kind of keys you're using on your account, phone, email, SMS, whatever. That kind of information, you might not want it to be known, because it at least increases your attack surface and maybe sets you up for the person who you're trying to will money to kill you, right? So yeah, I think that, I don't know that that's bringing privacy to the Cosmos entirely, but it is definitely bringing privacy to accounts on the Cosmos. So you have some control over the things that can be known about how you are using and how you intend to use your accounts across the Cosmos and beyond.
Yeah, I'll be super quick. I think there's probably more panels, but I think we just basically need to build better products than anyone else, and then they also need to be private. And I think if we can do that, then more and more people will know that Cosmos has great people building great products, and then they also know that they're also like great privacy. I think we shouldn't be celebrating the layer ones, the app chains and protocols. We should be celebrating the people that build on top of them. And so there's a couple of things I've heard about this evening. I didn't know about. Like I should be talking more as one of your peers. I need to be talking more about what you're building. Hopefully you talk more about what people are building on top of us, because ultimately, no one cares as much about the networks. Only geeks like us. People care about what they do.
Kill the Cosmos silos. All right, let's do that. There's room for all of us to build privacy first in the Cosmos, and we can all lead that together. But no more silos. Not even Cosmos to the outside world. As projects building on Cosmos, because of the modularity, we can all be part of being those market leaders and showing that ethos and that path forward for other projects. But we're going to drag them kicking and screaming along with us. We're not going to say, only in the Cosmos, only on Cheqd, only on Cheqd can you experience these privacy features. We're going to expand that pie. We're going to let everybody plug into it. And at that point, then maybe looking back, we'll successfully say, Cosmos was first, and then everybody followed. We've said that a lot.
well, with that, let's give a round of applause to our panelists.